Good evening, Red Star Rebels. It's April 4th, 2023, and this is Podcast Season 3, Episode number 9. Just one more week before Red Star Report's spring hiatus. We are Red Star Report. I'm Hal Lohr, and this is Voices for the California Nation. A fight broke out at a pro-Trump rally in Huntington Beach, leaving 2 injured last Saturday as a group of MAGA supporters gathered in Orange County near the Huntington Beach Pier to protest the grand jury indictment of former President Trump. A group of roughly 40 protesters with Make America Great Again flags and chanting God Bless Trump were protesting the indictment as political persecution and a witch hunt fueled by radical left Democrats for passersby and on a lot of social media outlets. When, according to the Huntington Beach police, a fight broke out a few minutes after noon when 2 demonstrators became engaged in an altercation with a pair of skateboarders. One of the victims, a man who had been leading the pro-Trump chants, was bleeding from the head but ambulatory, and another was taken to the hospital with minor injuries, both inflicted by being hit in the head with skateboards. Huntington Beach police initially detained 2 men at the scene, but took only 1 person into custody, and the incident is now under investigation. From the Capitol, Californians have fallen out of love with big oil for many reasons, but what's striking about the passage of Governor Gavin Newsom's legislation to penalize big oil's alleged greed is the public anger it represents in California policy. Today, California's governor rails about greedy oil companies fleecing motorists, lying and gouging Californians to line their own greedy little pockets, and he's not wrong. So the bill Newsom signed last week will establish a cap on profits and fine refineries that exceed it with a price gouging penalty. This governor brags about bringing oil to their knees, and he's not alone. Trashing and voting against the big oil company interests plays well with deep blue California voters already facing the challenges of climate change and planet-altering greenhouse gas emissions. In a poll last year by the Public Policy Institute of California people said by a 3-to-1 margin, Californians would prioritize developing alternative energy like wind, solar, and hydrogen over expanding oil and gas production. Polls that also reflect a growing anger among Californians over oil company practices purposely designed to single out California and hit the Golden State motorist directly, the people who pay far more than the national average for a gallon of gasoline. Every Californian knows, and most tend to accept, that some part of the difference between what we and the rest of the U.S. pay is attributable to state and local taxes plus fees to fund environmental programs. There's also the cost of mixing special anti-smog blends of fuel for California. But those costs don't account for the up to $2.61 extra Californians have paid over other states at the pump during highly traveled summer months when pump prices have suddenly and drastically escalated. Now the California State Energy Commission will have the legal authority to dig into refineries' books and discover why the reasons are that happens. On the homeless front, the Long Beach RV sanitation site for unhoused people will open up next week on a site near the Long Beach airport that will allow people living in RVs to dump waste tanks and refill their water tanks. The site will be located on the west side of the airport off the Cherry Avenue exit from the 405 freeway. The hours of operation will be 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. from Monday through Friday, according to the city. Opening the site will provide opportunities for those living in RVs to properly dispose of their waste instead of dumping it into storm drains or onto public property, which could create public health issues. The site will be staffed by a security guard and an attendant that will help people use the facilities. To access the site will require a referral and a time slot from the city's multi-service center in West Long Beach, the city's hub for homeless services, with the intent of requiring an appointment to ensure that people are being connected to other homeless services. Long Beach also has a safe parking site at the Queen Mary for people living in their vehicles. They can accommodate 50 vehicles, but overnight parking at or near the new oil dump site will not be allowed. For further information on homeless services in the Long Beach, South Los Angeles area, you can contact the Long Beach Multi-Service Center at 562-570-4500. That's 562-570-4500. Or go to longbeach.gov Health Services Directory under Homeless Services.
We are here as representatives of Scotland's independence movement, a movement that will grow in numbers with every day that passes. But today, our independence movement also becomes Scotland's democracy movement. Now, the Westminster establishment may think it can block a referendum, but let me be clear, I am sure on your behalf today, no establishment, Westminster or otherwise, will ever silence the voice of the Scottish people. Independence is not an abstract notion. Independence is about the prosperity of our nation. It is about the equality of our nation. It is about the internationalism of our nation. It is about building a better, fairer, more equal Scotland for this and generations to come. This is a movement. This is a movement I have been proud to be part of since I was a teenager. And it is a movement that I know is destined to win the independence of our country. So let us rededicate ourselves to that task today. Let us make sure that we take this message to every part of Scotland, because what has been shown beyond any doubt today is that the only route to equality for Scotland within the British family of nations is by Scotland becoming an independent country. Let's get to it, my friends. Let's win our independence and let's build the Scotland we know is possible. Thank you all very much indeed.
For those who don't know, that video was of a rally speech given just a few short months ago. Tonight, we have the latest edition of Saltire Report with Aeonghus Brownlee, bringing you some of the latest on what's happening with the Scottish independence movement after the elections brought on by the resignation of First Minister of Scotland and Scottish National Party leader Oil-Nicola Sturgeon.
Thank you, Hal. I'm Aeonghus Brownlee. This is the Saltire Report. Well, it's fair to say that the past month and a half has been anything but dull in the Scottish political sphere. Last month saw the shock resignation of Nicola Sturgeon as both the leader of the Scottish National Party and as First Minister of Scotland, triggering an internal election to choose a new party leader who would almost certainly go on to become the next First Minister, as well as the de facto figurehead of the Scottish independence movement. So for this report, I'm going to introduce you to the new SNP leader. But before we get to that, I want to take some time to talk about Nicola Sturgeon.
Being First Minister of Scotland is, in my admittedly biased opinion, the very best job in the world. It is a privilege beyond measure. I am proud to stand here as the first female and longest serving incumbent of this office. And I'm very proud of what has been achieved in the years I've been in Bute House. However, since my very first moments in the job, I have believed that part of serving well would be to know, almost instinctively, when the time is right to make way for someone else. And when that time came, to have the courage to do so, even if to many across the country and in my party, it might feel too soon. In my head and in my heart, I know that time is now, that it is right for me, for my party and for the country. And so today I am announcing my intention to step down as First Minister and leader of my party. I've been First Minister for over 8 years, and I was Deputy First Minister for the best part of 8 years before that. These jobs are a privilege, but they are also rightly hard, and especially in the case of First Minister, relentlessly so. My point is this: giving absolutely everything of yourself to this job is the only way to do it. The country deserves nothing less. But in truth, that can only be done by anyone for so long. For me, it is now in danger of becoming too long. While I am stepping down from leadership, I am not leaving politics. There are many issues I care deeply about and hope to champion in future. And obviously, there is independence. Winning independence is the cause I have dedicated a lifetime to. It is a cause I believe in with every fibre of my being, and it is a cause I am convinced is being won. I intend to be there as it is won every step of the way. Finally, and above all, the people of this beautiful, talented, diverse, at times disputatious, but always wonderful country. We faced the toughest of times together. I did everything I could to guide us through that time, often from my very familiar podium in St Andrew's House. And in return, I was sustained through that period by a wave of support from you that I will remember and value for the rest of my life. So to the people of Scotland, to all of the people of Scotland, whether you voted for me or not, please know that being your First Minister has been the privilege of my life. Nothing, absolutely nothing I do in future will ever come anywhere close. Thank you from the very bottom of my heart.
In that resignation speech, Nicola Sturgeon demonstrated the same leadership, that sense of responsibility, humanity, kindness, humility, and cast-iron commitment to civic duty she has provided the nation in her 16 years serving in government. Now, it's difficult to convey just how successful a leader Nicola Sturgeon was during her time as the High Hedian in a single podcast segment. But what I can say is, she has left her successor with extremely strong foundations from which to build upon. The SNP continues to poll at least 15 percentage points ahead of its nearest rival. Nicola herself has consistently polled as the most favoured party leader by Scots. She led the SNP to electoral victory in 8 consecutive elections. Her government has boosted Scotland's international profile and standing in the world, while the United Kingdom's profile as a whole has diminished and its reputation brought into disrepute. And as the first female First Minister, Nicola has been a positive role model for young women in Scotland, and has played her part in encouraging more young women to become active in politics and stand for election. So my heartfelt thanks go out to Nicola Sturgeon for all she has done for the country, for the SNP, and for the cause of Scottish independence. I wish her all the very best in her future endeavours, chief among them of course being her driving lessons. I'd also like to pay tribute to our now former Deputy First Minister, John Swinney, who took the decision to leave alongside Nicola, both having served together in Cabinet since 2007. I have no doubt that John will continue to make invaluable contributions to our national parliament from the backbenches and play a key role within the party in future campaigns.
I'd like to make some remarks in closing this debate and in closing the defining chapter of my professional life. I told the First Minister some months ago that I intended to step down at the end of the period in which I had temporarily returned to the finance and economy remit, and I fear that I may have prompted the First Minister to do some reflection of her own at the same time. I was struck by the comments of one commentator about my decision. He said that it was often best to have people asking, "Why are you resigning?" rather than "Why are you staying?" After 16 years in office, I have to say I was rather surprised from time to time that more people were not asking why I was still here. As a 15-year-old who joined a party that had terrible electoral prospects in 1979, my long ministerial career has been something of a surprise. There may be some hope for some in that observation at this moment. Over my period in office, I have exercised responsibilities across finance, the economy, the constitution, education, skills, COVID recovery and a multitude of subjects as Deputy First Minister. Of course, I have not achieved all that I would have wanted in my ministerial life. I would have loved Mr Fraser to have achieved independence for Scotland, but I am confident that those who follow me will do exactly that. In conclusion, Presiding Officer, yes, my ministerial career has been a bit of a surprise to me, but it's also been the greatest privilege of my professional life. I am grateful to the First Minister for giving me the honour of serving as Deputy First Minister, to the people of Scotland for their kindness, and to Parliament for holding me to account. I have done my best. It's now for others to fill this space.
Now, let's talk about the leadership contest. The early days were dominated, of course, by political commentators and party activists on social media offering their predictions on potential candidates. And as the deadline for nominations approached, we had big names in the party such as Angus Robertson, John Swinney and Keith Brown ruling out their candidacy. So by the end of the week, the candidates contesting the leadership were confirmed to be Kate Forbes, member for Skye, Lochaber and Badenoch, Humza Yousaf, member for Glasgow Pollock, and Ash Regan, member for Edinburgh Eastern. Now, skipping forward to the 27th of March, the ballots were closed and the party's National Secretary, Lorna Finn, declared the results for each round of the counts, with the party using ranked choice voting for the contest. Ash Regan was eliminated in the first round, with Humza Yousaf being declared the winner in the second round, after which he was invited to give his victory speech.
It is hard for me to find the words to describe just how honoured I am to be entrusted by our membership of the SNP to be the party's next leader and to be on the cusp of being our country's next First Minister. I also feel like the luckiest man in the world to be standing here as the leader of the SNP, a party I joined almost 20 years ago and that I love so dearly. If elected as your First Minister after tomorrow's vote in Parliament, know that I will be a First Minister for all of Scotland, that I will work every minute of every day to earn and to re-earn your respect and your trust. The SNP has earned your trust by governing well, by ensuring that your priorities are our priorities. As a party and as a government, we are at our best when we are radical and bold. And the challenges we face today, they require nothing less of us. Joining the SNP, for me, was an act of hope, but it was also a statement of intent. I was determined then, as I am now, that we will deliver independence for Scotland. To those in Scotland who don't yet quite share that passion that I do for independence, I will aim to earn your trust by continuing to ensure we govern well and earn your respect as First Minister by focusing on the priorities that matter to all of us. And for those of us in this room and watching who do believe in independence, we will only win by making that case on the doorsteps. And my solemn promise and commitment to you is that I will kickstart our grassroots, our civic-led movement, and ensure our drive for independence is in fifth gear. The people of Scotland need independence now more than ever before, and we will be the generation that delivers independence for Scotland. To our now former leader, Nicola Sturgeon, and her deputy in government, John Swinney, thank you for your dedicated service to this party, to our country, and to all the people of Scotland. My final thanks is to my grandparents. Unfortunately, they're no longer alive to see this day, but I'm forever thankful that my grandparents made the trip from Punjab to Scotland over 60 years ago. As immigrants to this country who knew barely a word of English, they could not have imagined in their wildest dreams that their grandson would one day be on the cusp of being the next First Minister of Scotland. We should all take pride in the fact that today we have sent a clear message that your colour of skin, or indeed your faith, is not a barrier to leading the country that we all call home. From the Punjab to our Parliament, this is a journey over generations that reminds us we should be celebrating and always celebrate the migrants who contribute so much to our country. Thank you for the honour of choosing me to be your nominee to become Scotland's 6th First Minister. I will dedicate every waking moment to serving you, the people of Scotland. Thank you very much.
And so the next day, Nicola Sturgeon penned her resignation letter to the King, then left Bute House, the First Minister's official residence, to join her colleagues in the Scottish Parliament ahead of the vote to appoint her successor. The other parties, of course, put forward their own candidates for First Minister, as they are entitled to. Inevitably, however, Humza was elected by a majority of MSPs, that's members of the Scottish Parliament, in the first round of voting, with support from the Green Party.
In this round of voting, in the selection of the Parliament's nominee as First Minister, the number of votes cast for each candidate is as follows. Alex Cole-Hamilton, 4. Douglas Ross, 31. Anna Sarwar, 22. Humza Yousaf, 71. As an overall majority has been reached, the candidate selected as the Parliament's nominee for the position of First Minister is Humza Yousaf.
One key point raised by all the party leaders was the truly historic nature of his appointment, because Humza Yousaf is the first Muslim, minority ethnic descended from an immigrant family, as well as the youngest person to become First Minister of Scotland. He's also the first Muslim leader of a Western democratic nation. The following day, Humza took the oath of office at the Court of Session, which is the senior civil court of Scotland, where he was formally appointed the 6th First Minister of Scotland. He later appointed new cabinet secretaries and junior ministers, continuing a tradition started by Nicola Sturgeon by ensuring a gender-balanced cabinet. In fact, the cabinet is for the first time majority women. Half the secretaries are under the age of 40, and their new portfolios show Humza's commitments to the environment, rural communities, social justice, promoting Scotland on the world stage, fair work practices, the move towards a well-being economy, Scotland's place in Europe, and, of course, Scottish independence. During the leadership contest, Humza outlined several key policy priorities for his administration, including creating buffer zones around women's health and abortion clinics, introducing free childcare for all 1- and 2-year-olds, giving free football club membership for kids from deprived backgrounds, challenging the Section 35 order given by the UK government that blocked the Gender Recognition Reform Act earlier this year, delivering the bottle recycling scheme, making Aberdeen and North East Scotland the net zero capital of Europe and the world, boosting community ownership of renewable energy, and giving the Scottish Government an equity stake in future offshore wind projects, the move towards a well-being economy that puts people and planet first, banning the abhorrent practice of so-called LGBTQ+ conversion therapy, a £25 million fund for rural housing, purchasing empty homes and turning them into housing for key workers and those living in rural areas. His support for wealth taxes and the redistribution of wealth is well known. His tripling the Fuel Insecurity Fund to aid struggling households during this cost of living crisis. The decentralisation of public sector jobs to create more opportunities in rural Scotland. And of course, delivering Scottish independence and our return to the European Union, to name just a few. Humza has also pledged to be the first activist of the SNP, with plans to ramp up the party's independence campaigning activities, working with other pro-independence organisations across the country to build that broader civic campaign we saw in 2014, saying that he wants to draw on the experience and knowledge of both the SNP and our fellow Scots. So overall, speaking as a Scot and an SNP activist, I am optimistic and confident that Humza Yousaf's bold and progressive policies for government, in partnership with the Green Party, will deliver for the people of Scotland. With Humza as leader of the SNP and First Minister, we remain on the path to becoming a fairer, more equal, more prosperous, greener, and once again independent European nation. As always, Red Star Rebels, Tapali Versin Coed, and Hea Gudian. Back to you, Hal.
Before we go on, it would not be right not to recognize the tireless leadership and hope that Nicola Sturgeon brought to not just the Scottish independence movement, but for independence movements worldwide by her shining example of how to lead a movement brilliantly through the complexities of local and national politics. That her efforts, along with her colleagues in the Scottish independence movement, have helped create the blueprint for peaceful independence through popular initiative. So, as a voice of the California independence movement speaking from half a world away, let us with all due humility say thank you to the outgoing Scottish National Party leader, Nicola Sturgeon, and wish incoming Scottish National Party leader, Humza Yousaf, best of luck as he goes forward with the dream of freedom and independence for the Scottish people. Sláinte. And for more information on Scottish independence, check out Yes Scot at www.yes.scot. That's www.yes.scot. Let's keep this going. It's time for Talking Points. This is Talking Points. With April Fool's Day only a few days in the rearview mirror, I can't help but be reminded of that famous quote from Voltaire that goes, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Because with April Fools just days past, and the entire U.S. media machine devoted to the political circus around the indictment and just a few hours ago arrest of former President Donald Trump, all but ignoring his legacy of followers working tirelessly to drive America to the hard right, I can't think of anything more absurd or atrocious. On April Fool's Day, also known as the first of the month, when rent checks and mortgages are due, I had 3 separate friends become homeless after rent and eviction protections sunsetted earlier this year across the country. Joining the hundreds of thousands of homeless people in an obscenely wealthy America that normalizes poverty in the same way it normalizes elementary school shootings. And yet, both of these things that should be A-list number one priorities simply aren't even considered in the national embarrassment that they really are. Not when multiple states are attacking drag shows, transgender bathroom choices, and the basic rights of the LGBTQ community in general to even publicly exist in school books. The absurdity of an extreme American right that rails against big government and cancel culture, and then will embrace Big Brother and cancel any group of people they don't like. Yeah, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Just ask the Proud Boys, the Three Percenters, Patriot Front, and all the other neo-fascists who brought assault weapons to their local drag queen storybook hours. Then go look up the word absurdity in the dictionary, because if you can't see the confluence of fascist America's absurdity and atrocity in that, you're hopeless. And it doesn't end there. Winter storms slammed California, causing damage up and down our nation state. And don't get me wrong, no true Californian isn't at least a little grateful for a break in the drought, but there is a climate change reality here. The winter showers that bring spring flowers will also bring dry grass under electrical towers. And as summer temperatures soar, Californian will enter the burning season in August and September, now with fresh fuel. So we Californians have that to look forward to. Plus the usual predictable response from FEMA and the federal government, where it will basically offer us thoughts and prayers, but California, as usual, will be forced to go it alone. From a California independence movement standpoint, I mean, we could go on, but hey, what's really important in America right now? Donald Trump paid a porn star for sex using campaign funds, right? Okay. Investigate him, indict him, arrest him, convict him, fine him, jail him, execute him, if that's where the legal process leads. But if you step back and take a good hard look at it, as a Californian, maybe you should be asking yourself, what the hell is up with America's sense of priorities? Because with the ultra-right political direction being taken right now by legislatures across the United States, you have to wonder if all this is little more than a media distraction, where those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. For a California independence movement talking point, that could be fascist America's ultimate April Fool's joke. This is Talking Points. That's it. Podcast number 9 of our 3rd season. For more Red Star Report information, check out our website at redstarreport.com. Please subscribe to our Red Star Report YouTube channel. Go to our Red Star Report Facebook page, Twitter page, and Instagram page and give us a like, give us a follow. Because if you want to support the real California independence movement, hashtag the New Cal Exit Media Group, it's all about the algorithms. And hey, seriously, click that link below and pledge support for our friends at listener-supported radio KPFK 90.7 Los Angeles. KPFK deserves your support. Our thanks to you and all our Red Star Rebels for watching. We are Red Star Report.